Welcome to today's episode of The Breach Room, where we connect with the sharpest minds in the cybersecurity industry to uncover the new technology trends and also learn how to mitigate those risks. At Alterm, we help cybersecurity firms break free from the outdated ways of lead generation methods, such as like networking events and conferences, and building a personal brand relying on referrals, which is often more of a wishful thinking strategy that doesn't really convert into the bottom line. And so with our battle tested data driven acquisition systems, we will bring ideal clients into your calendar with no chasing, not guesswork, just predictable growth. And so if you're in cybersecurity and you're looking to scale your business and see the results within the first week, DM me the word growth for a free consultation. And now without further ado, we have a really special guest that is also a CEO of a cybersecurity firm, and he has his own podcast. So, Will, why don't you go ahead and take over and introduce yourself and what you do?
Thanks, Luis, and appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion with you. I
Such an
am
honor.
the I'm the CEO of Better Everyday Cyber. First and foremost, I'm just a family man. I've been married over actually it'll be 22 years this week. Me and my wife will be celebrating our anniversary this weekend.
That's amazing.
Yeah, appreciate it. And I have 5 kids. That's right, 5 kids, a whole handful, and they are a handful. A little bit more about my career and background. I have been involved with various industries, most recently cybersecurity, but got my start out actually in the Army. Spent 20 years in the Army doing IT services, did everything from field service technician all the way over to like an IT director, would be equivalent IT director for enterprise service desk, did everything from system administration, network administration, and satellite communications, all those types of things. And towards the end of my career, I started to dibble and dabble into what the Army was referring to as information assurance. We better know that as information security and cybersecurity. And so that kind of led me into a couple of certifications, got a bachelor's degree in network operations security. And my first role when I retired from the Army was supporting the TSA as a part of a GRC contract. I actually worked for a contracting company, but that company did GRC cybersecurity services. And I hadn't really done something like that full time and focused on it. I was more of the IT guy behind the scenes, working on the servers and the systems and making sure things were communicating and connected properly. And so I felt like a little bit of a fish out of water. Had to learn things pretty quickly, but I grew. And I always tell people I didn't go looking for cybersecurity. Cybersecurity came and found me. So as a virtue and as a result of working with the TSA and then the Secret Service, I did things within the compliance space, GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. And I was a compliance specialist, compliance lead. So I was part of the GRC team there, where we did everything from either working with organizations and companies that had pretty mature cybersecurity programs to those that had nothing in place and we had to build it from the ground up. And I hit just about every industry vertical. I did manufacturing and finance and city and local government. And it caused me to really get more of a perspective of where the challenges lie when it comes to cybersecurity and more specifically when it comes to GRC. And it really made me consider how I can be more of an assistant to these organizations, especially small, mid-sized businesses that may not have all the big resources. And it kind of led me to starting my own company, Better Everyday Cyber, where I really wanted to focus around number one, helping small, mid-sized businesses establish, mature, grow, develop their cybersecurity programs. But also, what ended up happening is I also ended up focusing on GRC career training and education.
That's so incredible. And I feel like what you're doing is really a necessity because a lot of small, medium sized businesses don't see cybersecurity as a must have. To them, a much more of a nice to have, when in reality, like they're the main targets for cyber attacks. Also, when it comes to like the training and educational part, there's a lot of demand for cybersecurity talent nowadays. So I'm really happy to hear that you're paving the way for the future generation to come as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm enjoying this leg of the journey and being of value, right? Really, where this came from is I mentioned I felt like a little bit of a fish out of water when I transitioned into cybersecurity, and a lot of it was because I was more IT focused and not really governance, risk, and compliance focused. And those are completely different mindsets. And so I had to learn as I was going for a lot of the roles that I was in, and it caused me to go on this self development journey where I was seeking out information and processes and how do I get into the right mindset and understand exactly what I need to be doing as a GRC practitioner. And so when people would ask me how I was doing every day, when I'd meet with the clients, and I'd say better every day, and they're like, "Oh, that's a really good perspective. I'm learning something new every day, and I'm improving every day." And so my goal is to help both small, mid-sized businesses and individuals that are looking to break into cybersecurity get better every day. And then how I kind of pair it with the one word every day, which means like more mundane, is how do we take a very complex subject like cybersecurity and how do we make this more digestible and more affordable by implementing everyday solutions that will help an organization and mature their cybersecurity posture.
That's super impressive. You focus on getting better, even if it's just 1%. Everything has compounded up to this moment. And now you're passing that torch along to make it easier for the future generation. And when it comes to the clients that you serve, how do you go about conveying the value of your services? Because small, medium-sized businesses is a demographic where there needs to be a lot of education around cybersecurity and especially like GRC.
It's a unique challenge dealing with SMBs, and it's mainly because with any business, most times they are focused on the product or service that they're delivering to their clients. And so they get real good. I'm gonna just call it widgets, right? So they get really good at delivering or creating, manufacturing, perfecting, and delivering these widgets. And when you're good at one thing like that, you just want to get it out into the market so that you can start generating revenue. And the challenge, though, is those companies don't all also have simultaneously cybersecurity expertise or IT expertise. Like they'll outsource their IT, they'll get a software as a service, and that's what's hosting their platforms. And so they are a consumer of this infrastructure and this technology, but they don't necessarily understand it. And so trying to communicate the value of GRC, especially because when people see somebody that's coming at them with a GRC product or service, they don't really see it as a moneymaker, right? It's like you're not really helping me go faster and build my product better. Like you're more of a stumbling block. You're gonna point out, you're gonna surface more problems than you solve. And so it's difficult to communicate the value that you add. But what we try to do is number one, speak the language of business. So business, when it comes to business, they're about a revenue and then about like how do we manage risk. So what is the risk to our revenue? And then how do we address that risk appropriately? And it's tying the cybersecurity posture of the organization to risk and then to the business. And so what that means is if you have, maybe you're depending on AWS to host your platform or service, right? And you have an application and you want to host it in the cloud, you're leveraging AWS. Well, the server that you're putting your information on is technology, and every piece of technology is an attack point. And so if that server goes down, now you're not able to provide services and products to your clients. And so cybersecurity is one of those aspects where sometimes a very, very easy in to get into an organization by cybersecurity. How much production is this going to affect? How long will they be without the ability to provide products and services to their clients? And then putting a dollar sign onto it. And then now we can actually codify risk and speak the language of business. It's like, hey, it's in dollars and cents, and I don't want to assume that risk. So how can we implement some better mindsets, better software, better tools, processes, technology, even bring on certain people to help you mitigate that risk? And that's where we try to help organizations realize. And then once they're able to do that, they're more likely to be open to a conversation about bringing in some GRC solutions.
That makes a lot of sense. When you put it down like that, if you're out of business for 1 month, how much is it actually going to cost you? All of that can be prevented, which leads me to my next question. I feel like a lot of small, medium business owners end up looking for cybersecurity once they've been breached instead of being proactive about it. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you convey that to your clients?
It's a challenge for people to see because you can't really prove a negative. So until something goes wrong, it's hard to see that you actually had something wrong to begin with. And a lot of small, mid-sized businesses and even some larger organizations have the misconception that a lot of times they'll get cyber insurance. And especially when you're small, it's easier to get insurance. And when you go through those questionnaires, they're looking at very basic things. And if you're, your hosted platform and you don't have a bunch of things stored on premises, like sensitive information, things like that, you're probably going to get cyber insurance. And then a lot of people think, okay, I've covered all of my cybersecurity needs. I got cyber insurance. If I have a problem, I call the insurance company and we're going to be good to go. However, the problem is that when you get breached, if you haven't put a lot of protective measures and put a lot of thought into what you need to secure, because a lot of those cyber insurance questionnaires don't really dig into the details. They're very generic. You're not really talking to somebody one on one that's actually a cybersecurity practitioner to where they can dig down into the details, especially when you're first starting out. And so a lot of the things that you actually touch, you don't even know that you're touching it. And so if you don't know what to secure, you won't put the right practices in place in order to make sure that those things are secure. And so the problem that they have to solve is having a bit better awareness about what they have access to, what they need to protect within the organization. Sensitive information that not only the organization has, like their confidential information, their proprietary services and products, and how they operate and how they create their products and services, but then also the sensitive information that they're gathering from their clients, and then how do they protect their infrastructure appropriately. And so after a breach is the last place you want to be. You want to be ahead of the hit. A pound of prevention is worth a million pounds of cure. And so the key is to be able to get on that front side. How do I evaluate my infrastructure? How do I evaluate my processes? How do I understand where my gaps are? How do I understand what my actual attack surface is? And then how do I implement appropriate measures to secure that appropriately? I It isn't a question of if I'm going to experience a cybersecurity incident, it's just when.
Hello. That's the best way to look at it. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I always tell people, like, think about it as a car. You purchase a car and you're not hoping to get into an accident tomorrow, but you're gonna get insurance just in case something ever happens. It's the same thing with getting cybersecurity. And how do you go about illustrating what the infrastructure would need? Do you go into their business once they contact you to make an assessment and then give them an estimate? Or how do you go about finding these points of vulnerability so that you can help them see that they need to be addressed?
Everything starts with understanding the sensitive information that you actually have. Like that's what we want to start. Like, where is the treasure? And so when a threat actor is looking for opportunity, they're looking for treasure, something of value that they have. And a lot of this is around sensitive data. And so it's understanding, my sensitive data and my critical assets. So what is important to the business and what supports business operations and delivering products, services, and value to our clients. And so we start with it. Usually I always recommend an assessment because that's how I get the awareness. So I understand, what do I need to protect? And then what is currently in place in terms of how we are protecting that data, that information, that infrastructure, technology, and even people. And once you do an assessment on what they currently are, now that's that snapshot in time. Like, okay, now let's look at you and figure out, based off of where you are today, are you able to meet, based off of the type of data that you have and the type of environment and industry that you're in? That's the other side of it. Like, some people are in an industry that has inherent compliance requirements associated with it. And so what are those compliance requirements that are associated with the industry and the data or the type of individuals that you're involved with, and doing a gap analysis. Okay, here's where you are, here's where you need to be. And so now that we've identified where the gap is, how do we then implement a plan in order to address that and then track that over time? And so we do things like a risk register, and we assign each compliance deficiency and each security deficiency as an item that needs to be tracked on a risk register, and we associate it. We give it a risk. We give it like, hey, is this a critical risk, a high risk, medium, moderate risk, or a low risk? And based off of that, then we prioritize it. Hey, we're going to focus on the critical and high risk first, and then we're going to work our way down. And then if we have some targets of opportunity where we can kill two birds with stone and maybe hit a moderate and low here with ease, absolutely, let's do it. This is how we can implement a risk-based approach to how we address things and address cybersecurity posture within an organization. And as you track that over time, the goal is to continually monitor. I do more of a cognitive and a procedural assessment, like, hey, how are we protecting the data? What are we doing? What things are in place? And then you can also do, you can incorporate technology into it, vulnerability scans, things like that, that will then comb through the network, like reviews of their Active Directory or Entra ID, or things like that, reviewing their security posture, compliance, and then taking all that information and then making sure that we keep track of where we have deficiencies and identifying who's going to be responsible for addressing this. Do we have the funds available to do this? And then when are we going to be able to address this appropriately? And then I'm going to keep periodically circling back around and making sure I'm touching each one of those things and getting in contact with those points of contact to figure out where they're at in that process. Because as you do business, as you identify new technology that you want to onboard, as you bring on new people, as you offboard previous people, you're going to introduce different types of risks to the organization. And you need to constantly assess that risk and have a plan of attack to identify it, put a plan in place to remediate it, and then track it over time.
Clients do you particularly like to work with? What's your like ideal client? Is it like law firms, dental practices? What niche are you serving the most?
The niche I like serving the most, I would say defense contractors. I think especially the ones that understand what it is to try to pursue compliance. I've done a lot of work with manufacturing and finance as well. Really, for me, it isn't about the industry, it's about the willingness to actually do the work. And so ends up happening with these organizations, especially when you do your first like vulnerability scan and you do your first compliance and security controls assessment, that thing, you're going to have so many things that you have to address that it's easy to get overwhelmed. When I mention like defense contractors, they have a kind of a fire lit under them right now, which is CMMC. It's like winter is coming. As soon as CFR 48 rule comes out, like that's when it starts making its way into contracts. And it's always like the requirements, like the controls have already always been a requirement, but now the contract language communicating a certain level of certification that needs to go along with that to demonstrate that you're compliant. That's the difference. And that's putting a fire under defense contractors to be able to be postured for continued work in the defense industrial base.
I think it's actually a brilliant strategy, like helping those who actually need to change their business because if not, they won't be able to keep on doing these type of contracts because they see the value in your services and it's now a requirement. How do you go about like connecting with these people?
Honestly, and it's funny because I went and spent a lot of time building out getting a website and starting a LinkedIn page for my business and creating trying to create traffic and all of that. Ironically enough, my small mid-sized business clients are clients that don't even touch my website. Like they come by word of mouth, by people I know in the industry, people that know that this is the type of work that I do and I've had experience in both professionally and within the business. And they're the ones that bring me my SMB clients. The people that really go to my website are individuals that are trying to break into cybersecurity. And so it was odd and it caused me to really start to apply a little bit more effort into exploring how I can then serve those individuals better because that's a big gap in the market as we start looking at things like CMMC and other compliance standards. The technology is out there to be able to implement and then provide some protective measures, address controls. What isn't as readily available is implementers that understand how to properly apply those controls and then verify that those controls are implemented appropriately. I built this website that I was kind of proud of, and my SMB clients, they don't even see it. They come into through other means.
Yeah, it's actually a really beautiful website. Congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
And what industry trends have you been spotting lately that have been emerging the most in the industry?
AI is the it's the new thing, and it is taking over. And so when you look at AI, you're either using it or you're losing to it. And that means you're either, if you decide, hey, we're not going to use AI, other businesses that are in your industry are using it and they're able to scale and they're able to surge
Yeah.
at a capacity and at a rate that you just can't keep up with. It is a force multiplier and is able to expedite the growth process for organizations because it can just do so many different tasks and solve so many different problems where you don't have to iterate as many times. The challenge with that though is there are also threat actors that are leveraging AI to attack organizations. And so if you're using AI, number one, you got to use AI to keep up. And number two, you have to utilize AI to also try to protect your organization. So getting solutions that are leveraging SOAR, SIM, and SOC solutions that are leveraging AI in addition to a human in the loop that is monitoring your network, that's looking at traffic, that's looking at your security posture and figuring out ways to optimize and keep up with these attacks that are coming down the pipe. It's getting a lot harder to identify like social engineering attacks that are coming from threat actors. Before, you could look at spelling and these weird email addresses and this broken English or something like that, to where like that looks like somebody that is from a foreign country that is trying to hack into or trying to get me to click on a link or download an attachment. It's easy. Hey, that's spam. But now the AI is being intuitive and it's figuring out how, like what's the vernacular and then what type of business are they in, and they're using the right language and they're using correct English and the grammar is correct, and so it's harder for you to identify that. And then they even have AI that's able to bypass some security controls because if you're not updating and your security solutions aren't keeping up with things, then AI is figuring out ways around your security solutions where you think you're correct or you think you're secure and really you're not. And so that's a big trend. And then the other side of things is if you're going to leverage AI within the business in order to keep up so you can innovate, so you can scale, so you can surge, it's monitoring your inputs, your outputs, what platforms you're using, and then having a human in the loop to review what's going in. You don't want to put sensitive information in because, especially if you're using these cloud platforms, you're training the model on your data, and then that data is then now searchable, queryable, and then it'll surface in other people's queries. And then the outputs, it's having expertise to know what am I really looking for in terms of an output. What am I expecting to see? And then when I don't see that, is it a problem with the input? Is it a problem that like somebody has figured out how to breach my AI infrastructure, my language model that's performing my generative AI processes, or is it something where it's hallucinating and is spitting out inaccurate information? And so it's having the awareness around that and the oversight around your AI, oversight around your cybersecurity environment, and then awareness of what's going on in your industry so that you can keep up, right? And so we want to use AI as a tool. It's not the enemy. We just need to get better at leveraging it as a tool to improve, enhance, and improve efficiencies within our organization so that we can keep up.
I think you did an outstanding job at summarizing like what's the great benefits of using AI, but also how to appropriately use it and being really careful with what you put in the LLM. Like, what are some ways in which you've been using AI to scale your business and serve better to your clients?
One of the great ways to use AIs is AI is for automation. It's identifying what are the tasks that I do on a repetitive basis, maybe a sequence, a process that we implement, and is there a way to utilize AI as a resource to make that process a little bit more automated, to where now you have built in something like either a GPT or an automation where it goes and it takes an email, it summarizes it, it takes out the key information, and then it sends that to your marketing teams like, hey, here's what our clients are asking of us. What products and services do we already have to answer this? And if we don't, how do we then get a product or service that could better speak to what our clients are actually asking for us? That goes to your development team, and then your development team gets this as a feature request, and then now you're able to then process that and then be able to provide and use the what are they asking of us and why are they asking for this. They build that into the feature, and then they iterate that, they use that, and you can just automate certain processes to make things easier.
I absolutely agree with you on that. And I think, like on your everyday business, as a CEO, like what is your main responsibility when it comes to the business? Like, are you still, down with the team in the trenches, like overseeing the engagements, or are you more like on the, like growing and hiring more people and getting more clients out of things?
Yeah, great question. I am mostly an army of one, which is used to be one of those army slogans, an army of one. But I am the chief bottle washer and chef, chief cook and bottle washer. I think that was the term. And now I do have some help when it comes to my training and education wing of my business. I have a good friend, Dr. Dave Green, that helps me curate content and facilitate an apprenticeship program. And so I have help there. The other side of it is I usually try to outsource some things within my business. So I'm really trying to make sure that I understand where do I want our business to focus our efforts. So is it in, client acquisition? How do we then develop products and services that will support our clients? How do we prepare ourselves for different trends in the market? So how are we researching and staying abreast of certain things that are happening? And then how am I then making sure that the revenue that we do bring in, how is that then going to support how we can, grow, how we can scale, how we can bring on new technology, and how we can eventually, what I want to do is be an employment opportunity for other individuals that want to be able to support our operations, but most importantly, support our clients. So I've been focusing, and really my chief goal over the next 180 days is around the training and education. Again, we talk about this gap that's in the market. We don't have enough qualified professionals and skilled professionals in the market right now to address these implementation gaps, and then under like awareness and implementation. And so I have a really strong mandate that I placed on myself in order to be able to identify who wants to be in this industry and identify those that will be postured to be able to implement and execute within the GRC space, because GRC is not sexy. Nobody is really like it's like, you got your pen testers, the ethical hackers, and those are the ones that have like the sexy job. Or even like if you work in a SOC, it's like, oh yeah, I'm on the front lines, and I'm monitoring traffic, and I'm identifying, oh yeah, look, there's a problem, and I'm sounding the bell, and so a lot of that is the sexy side of things, right? So like everybody wants to hack something, and everybody wants to be on the front lines and stop somebody from hacking. See is like the person that you picture somebody coming in with a clipboard and a pocket protector, and that's telling you all the things that you can't do. And they're like, ah, you're not in compliance. Get yourself right. Look at this gap analysis and look at all the things that you need to fix. We need to get there. That's really what I want to help individuals see, and then strategize what is a cost effective way to be able to solve this problem, because it's a lot of times we don't necessarily need a 5-figure or 6-figure solution to implement that. I've seen many organizations that spend all this money to do that. The When you're a smaller organization, A, it's a big price tag, but B, buying the solution isn't the buying a solution isn't the solution. It's how you manage and apply
Implement that.
good
Yeah.
sound principles to address the controls and monitor the controls and know what you're actually looking for. Again, inputs, outputs, and then oversight as to what needs to happen. And that's what I want to train skilled professionals to be able to do.
Yeah. That's exactly what I thought when you said you had the educational aspect of things. I'm like, wow, he's so incredible. Like Will is already preparing, the next generation for his company, by training them if they're showing interest in cybersecurity. But then you take it even a step further, like which person will actually be able to work in this space, that is like the unsexy. So it's super brilliant. And if you had one message, Will, that you would like the audience to take home after they listen to today's episode, what would that be?
To my SMBs that may be out there, you're not too small to suffer. So a cybersecurity tech, it isn't just about when or if, it's about when. So just because you're small doesn't mean you're not on somebody's radar. You may not be the treasure, but you are a target. And so you may not be the end result that threat actor is looking for, but if you're part of somebody's supply chain, they will gladly use you as the ship that transports them to Treasure Island. So be intentional about your cybersecurity. Cybersecurity risk is business risk is financial risk. And you want to maintain your ability to be able to provide valuable products and services to your clients. And especially if you're smaller, one cybersecurity breach could put you out of business altogether. And so my encouragement to you is to make sure that you identify where you are currently cybersecurity posture wise, and then get the help that you need and understand that there are some cost effective solutions that are out there that can help you get visibility into where you are, help you identify where you need to go, and then help you along the way keep track of where you're at, and then make sure that you're able to continue to deliver value and services to your clients.
Perfect. And you guys can go to bettereverydaycyber.com. And how else can people get a hold of you in case they wanted to look into what getting cybersecurity for the business would look like?
I also have a YouTube channel, and so it's Better Everyday Cyber. And so I have videos that I've posted, some interviews that I've done over there as well. And also, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. I have my personal braids page, and I also have Better Everyday Cyber. I have a business page as well. And so you can hit me up on any one of those mechanisms, and I will make sure that I stay available to continue to add value to the industry.
Thank you. Well, it's been such a great honor having you in the podcast. I cannot see what you're going to accomplish in the next 6 months after our conversation today.
It's been an honor, a privilege, and again, I appreciate the opportunity. It's been simply a pleasure to have this conversation with you, Luis.